Hello from Shree Learning Academy. We are covering supply chain vulnerabilities today. For personalized training, messages on WhatsApp, we would love to help. Now let's dive in. Now, when we say supply chain, we are not just talking about factories and trucks delivering boxes. It's much more than that, especially in the digital world. Think of the supply chain like a big network made up of different companies and services that work together to build and run the technology we all use. It's a part a product or service takes before it gets to you, the user. And vulnerabilities? Well, those are the weak spots. They are the cracks in the system where bad things can slip through. Cyber attacks, data theft, system breakdowns, these can all happen if just one part of that chain has a weakness. Let's break it down and make it easier to understand. Imagine you are a company that sells smart home devices. Things like smart lights, smart locks, or thermostats. You don't make every part yourself. You rely on different providers. Some build the hardware, some provide the software, and others manage the services, things like cloud storage or customer support. All of them are part of your supply chain. And if any one of those partners isn't secure, your product and your customers could be at the risk. Let's start with service providers. These are the companies that offer things like cloud computing, email systems, or data storage. So if your company is using cloud servers to store customer data, and the cloud provider gets hacked, your data could be exposed, and even if your own systems are perfectly secure. Here's an example. Back in 2020, a company called SolarWinds was at the center of a huge cyber attack. Hackers got into the SolarWinds system and planted malicious code in one of their software updates. Now SolarWinds provided network management tools to a lot of big organizations, including the government agencies and Fortune 500 companies. So when those clients updated their software, they unknowingly installed the hacker's backdoor that gave the attackers access to sensitive systems, and all because of a weakness in a service provider. SolarWinds wasn't the only one affected, but their role in the supply chain made it possible for the damage to spread far and wide. Now think about that for a second. A hacker didn't need to attack every company directly. They just had to target one link in the chain, and in this case, SolarWinds. And then they could reach out many others through that one entry point. That's the risk with service providers. You trust them with a part of your business, and if they are compromised, you are affected too. Now let's move to the hardware providers. These are the companies that create the physical parts like chips, servers, routers, and sensors. We often assume that hardware is safe, but it's not software. But that's not always true. In fact, hardware can have vulnerabilities built into it, either by mistake or on purpose. Let's say your smart home product uses a specific microchip that comes from another country, and if that chip has a hidden flaw or a secret backdoor, maybe something left there during manufacturing, hackers could use it to spy on users or cause the device to stop working. That's a huge risk, especially for things like medical devices, critical infrastructure, or defense equipment. A real-world example of this kind of concern is the ongoing debate over telecom equipment made by foreign companies. Government have sometimes banned certain brands from being used in national networks because of fear that the hardware could be used for spying. Even if there's no proof of wrongdoing, the possibility alone creates a risk. And here's the tricky part. It's often very hard to detect these vulnerabilities in hardware. Unlike software, you can't just scan hardware for viruses. Some weaknesses are built deep into the design, and fixing them might mean replacing the entire part, which is expensive and time-consuming. So again, we see how a weakness in just one provider, in this case a hardware supplier, can threaten the security of an entire system. Now on to the software providers. These are the companies that build the programs and applications that make devices work. And if you have ever installed an app or updated your computer's operating system, you are dealing with software. And while software makes things convenient, it also opens the door to a lot of risk. One common issue is the use of third-party code. Developers often don't write every line of code from scratch. Instead, they use libraries, pre-written chunks of code to save the time. But these libraries are often written by outside developers, and they might not always be secure. Take the infamous Log4j vulnerability for example. Log4j is a popular logging tool used in many applications around the world, and in 2021 a critical flaw was discovered that allowed hackers to take control of systems just by tricking them into processing a certain line of code. It was a simple bug with massive consequences. Because Log4j was used in so many places, fixing the problem meant thousands of developers had to race to update their software fast. This shows how even a small piece of software written by a third-party developer can become a huge risk if it's widely used and not properly maintained. And here's another twist. Even when you patch a vulnerability, there's a time gap between the flaw is discovered and when it's fixed. Hackers often jump into that window and exploit it. So keeping software up to date, knowing where your code comes from, and monitoring your system constantly is the key. So if we look at all of this together, service providers, hardware providers, and software providers, we can see that a company is really only as strong as its weakest link in the supply chain. And in today's interconnected world, that chain can be long and complicated. What makes things harder is that companies often don't have full visibility into their supply chains. They might trust a vendor, but not know where that vendor gets their parts or codes. And if something goes wrong 3 layers deep, it can still come back to hurt them. Let's say you run an online store. You use a payment processor to handle the credit card transaction, a hosting company for your website, and a third-party tool to track shipments. If any one of those providers gets hacked, your customers' personal and financial information could be exposed. And even if your own website has strong security, that's the domino effect of supply chain vulnerabilities. So what can companies do? First, they need to carefully evaluate their providers. This means asking questions like how do they handle security, what kind of testing do they share where they get their components from, and it's not just about the price or convenience anymore, it's about the trust. Second, companies need to stay alert. That means monitoring system, keeping software updated, and being ready to respond if something suspicious happens. They should also have backup plans in case a supplier goes down or turns out to be unsafe. Third, communication is crucial. If a vulnerability is discovered, companies need to act fast, notify the users, release the fixes, and work with partners to close the gap. Delays only make things worse. And in the end, supply chain vulnerabilities are a big deal because they turn indirect risk into direct threats. You might think you are safe, but if someone you rely on isn't, you are not. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you are looking for more personalized training, contact us on WhatsApp. We offer a range of theoretical and practical courses starting at just $99. You can also find a written explanation and a quiz on our website. Link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe for more useful videos and feel free to ask any questions in the comments. We are here to help. See you in the next one.